Hello? We told you we'd be back.
Yep. And we're here to talk to you about communication. Which, at this point you've watched the entire journey, and if not, you can go back and watch it, but this probably won't either need that or it will.
Not the entire journey.
No, but key
There's a lot
parts.
of details we left out.
Key parts.
Yeah.
So, what we're going to talk to you about when it comes to communication is our everyday being, how we are now. One of the things that we had to reach, of course, from watching everything that we endured or hearing everything that we endured or what we endured between each other, was the judgment. Judgment is one of the most painful experiences you can experience as a human being. It causes you to react, attack, criticize, blame, argue. It almost causes disruption in what we as humans have to exist within. One of the things judgment is good at in this connection, or any connection, is making you right and the other person wrong, or making you wrong and the other person right. And then there's some reflection that happens in that, which causes you not to be able to communicate in such a way. We spent a lot of time going back and forth in communication without judgment. And even when there was, it quickly dissolved itself because of the connection. I think it became more apparent with when we first met and we had those moments of just quiet, peaceful moments with the place of no mind, where you actually truly flourish in love. During those moments when you flourish in love, it really kind of activates all of your love, and it doesn't have any judgment. But at some point, you end up becoming activated in the mind again, removed back out of what I guess most would call psychological time, which is mind-driven. Mm-hmm. And then the mind starts creating the patterns of self again. And what happens is you create an identity out of that. And that identity is either there to protect or do the things that it does based on the judgments that you already have of yourself, that you do to the world at hand.
Right.
It was really unbelievable from a standpoint of belief, because all of the things that we don't see that we do, that we judge ourselves, and then when somebody else judges us, it's almost an attack on who we are. It's an attack on what we do. It's an attack on what we say. And when you let those things go, you're able to tell the truth. Will I be accepted for my truth? I think that's probably one of the most common themes of everything out there, is no matter what kind of connection you have, if I tell the other person, will they think I'm batshit crazy?
We use that a lot.
Will I not say the right thing? Mm-hmm. Will I say something and they'll think me sick? Mm-hmm. Well, when you remove judgment from the self, your words formulate correctly. Mm-hmm. You remove the judgment of how you're going to be perceived. Remember, this is a mental projection of being perceived in a certain way. If you say, I can't tell my friends, I can't tell my family, I can't tell them this, it's because you're formulating yourself with the words that you want to choose to use. And I think in our case, whether it been soulmate, twin flame, whatever it is, get away from the words. The words are going to help you judge yourself and allow others to judge you in the same process. Judgment is very powerful, and it gives us ability to separate ourselves in a mental capacity where we cannot communicate with the other person.
Or when we do communicate with the other person, it's an attack because of what we're judging ourselves over.
And when she first started hearing a little bit about my truth, it's really ironic that there was no judgment. because I was expecting there to be. And even when it did come, it came in a matter of a question rather than an attack. And it was really strange because space was created around that I didn't feel like I had to be a certain way when I was around you. And that was when we came back together in 2007. So 2 years later, when I came back into it, and you had already had all of your assumptions and already gone through everything that I was probably doing, and probably even found out a ton of information, some reason you just didn't judge me. And the space was created again. So the communication flourished. There was fear in me to say some things, but it was because I was already judging myself. You had the same fear?
Yeah, I did. I really couldn't judge you considering that I was hiding myself.
And I didn't understand that at the time.
Right.
But we didn't understand that when we did finally come together, those judgments didn't have a place there. And it made communication almost unbearable. Because when we would try to get from point A to point B in our connection, we didn't understand that we were trying to drag these judgments in along with it. Judgments also will help you create a role to play, right? When you're role playing, you're missing the whole point of love. You're not going to be yourself. You're not going to say the things that you need to say. You're going to identify and do actions and behaviors and even make statements that otherwise you wouldn't make, and think the other person gets it. Judgments are that painful in that way. So, skipping all the way to where we are now, judgment really doesn't have a place with us.
No.
That's why we're able to tell you the truth. That's why we don't hide anything. We don't sugarcoat shit. I know I'm not supposed to say it.
You
but
can
I
say that, you just can't.
I just don't get it.
That you can't say.
Okay. We just realized that we were our own worst judge. When you're your own worst judge, you're guilty by association of your own thoughts. And when I mean guilty by association of your own thoughts, you look out at the other person and you already heard them say something that they've never said and they have no idea about. So when we assume and judge other people, it's really an internal way that you're already doing it to yourself.
Usually, always.
Always.
Always. And it affects the way that you communicate with one another so much that it's almost detrimental sometimes. You can just really get into the hurt when you're having a disagreement or having an argument, or you've got all these assumptions in your head and your own judgment of yourself is coming into play, and you take it out on the person that you're trying to have effective communication with, and you say hurtful things, and you throw out little digs, and then you also use it back. Well, you don't because.
Yeah. An example would be, you didn't pay attention that I needed you during this point in time, and, I looked weak. Hopefully you caught that judgment. The judgment wasn't sent outward, the judgment was already done on the inside. But what if we told you that judgment keeps you from being vulnerable? Judgment keeps you from expressing and showing all the love that you really have. And all judgment is time-based. Because you endured something, went through something, and had to be in front of something, at some point you realize that you're carrying this and you don't even know what you have it for. But now when you look out into the world, you expect them to give you that same judgment back.
Communication without judgment. How do you communicate effectively as a couple or a union or a relationship if the other person is lying, cheating, and hurting you? How do you not judge them when you're communicating the issues?
Well, the answer would be, once you stop judging yourself, then you'll stop judging the person that you're with.
When you are constantly thinking to yourself and letting your mind noise go, why am I putting up with this? Why do I do this to myself? Why do I constantly let him or her walk all over me? Why do I keep bringing them back into my life? Why do I?
You are still judging yourself, and you're judging the other person. You don't judge people based on what you think they are doing or think that they know that they're doing to you. That's a deeper message in itself. Think is the key word there. If you are able to share every single thought you have in your head with another person, and they don't attack you for it, and you don't attack them for it, freedom, peace, truth, no judgment. What would I get if I wasn't being judged? Not even just judged from other people, but not judged from myself. Peace would ensue. Not only that, true love would have an opportunity to flourish. So how do you share your thought process with someone you love deeply? Does that even make sense? What you're saying is you don't share your thought process with somebody, so how do you even anticipate that they know that you love them? Words formulate based on non-judgment. If you can tell the truth, and you do it with love, be no judgment.
Really, if you're doing the right thing and you're standing in your truth and you're completely honest with yourself and with your partner, and there's no judgment on yourself and what you're doing, the communication on your part is much clearer because you're not placing that judgment on to them. Well, I do this because of you, because you do this. I do this because, well, if you would just, that kind of stuff.
The ego self has been created. Once the ego is there and it has judgment as its tool, it's going to create an identity to keep you protected from everything that you keep inside yourself. It's a wall, a switch, or, no, I think switch was good.
Switch is good, yeah.
That is a switch. Most of these switches all come from a form of communication you never had. But you had in here. You just didn't tell it out there. It's how we can keep a lie laying over the truth. And then we have to live in that lie to protect ourselves from something the truth would give us. What would your truth give you?
How would you feel if you could tell your partner anything? At all. Anything. And I'll give you an example. And we really shocked somebody the other day. It's kind of amazing. And I went to the doctor, going on a weight loss program. So I went to the doctor, and when I go to the doctor, Lee comes with me. He's with me. He goes back with me. It doesn't matter. We're one. Same thing with him. I get back there. I'm obviously going for a weight loss program, so I'm going to step on the scales. And I step on the scales. I'm shocked and in awe. First of all, that the scales went up that high. Second of all, that I made them go up that high. But I was in shock, and I looked at the lady and I said, "Oh my God, I'm in shock." And then Lee looked at me, and then I told him the number. I told him how much I weighed. And this woman looked at me and said, "Oh my God, I would never tell my husband how much I weighed. Never." As a matter of fact, she told us, that he had asked her, and she said she had lost 20 pounds, and he said, "Well, what did you weigh before that?" And she was like, "Well, that's none of your business." Well, all right. So, I knew this was going to be an issue.
Yes. Mike, go lay down.
Yeah.
Please. Go lay down.
He doesn't judge me either.
No.
He just wanted
It's
to let
just
us
not
know.
in condition.
There you
we
go. So, let's just pretend like he's not here like we
Okay.
always do.
All right.
So, what kind of freedom is that? I had to come to the point where I had to be completely honest with myself. Are you kidding me right now?
Apparently not.
And that meant being completely honest with Lee. And it didn't matter what. It really didn't matter what. And I had come to the point in my life and in our journey where I was no longer living my story. So if I screwed up, I screwed up. And I just had to stand in that truth and say, "Hey, look, I screwed up. I made a mistake." And be able to come to him and tell him about it. And not that I ever do that. I don't ever screw up. But I actually do sometimes. You can't pull your buddies. You can't pull your buddies in on this. You
making
can't
sure
do
that
it.
they are aware of that message for them. All right.
But yeah, standing in my truth and knowing that if I screwed up at this point, I just have to be honest with him and tell him why I screwed up. And not it was because of what you did or what happened here or because when I was 12 years old. It was because,
Oh man, if I had $1. Anyway,
Right. Because this or because that or because my mother or because my daughter or because my stepfather or because anything else. It was because I made a mistake.
and there's no judgment. Get it? I mean, if you could feel that open, how free would you really be? We keep talking about this is not something that we want to keep hidden because communication has always been the key to all things. But when it's done without judgment, it really is true communication. It is true with love. It is true with all things that are right.
You have to be able to talk to each other, and you have to be able to be honest with each other and not sugarcoat anything. I did wreck the car, but I did run the red light.
I'm not saying that was
Oh, yeah. Well,
and the 5-year-old already made a picture of it.
yeah. Ron ran a red light. Let's put it out there.
There you go. Just throw him under the bus.
Ron ran
Well,
a red
he
light
ran through
and
the
wrecked
light.
the truck. And but he didn't have anybody to answer to. We just use that as an example. But how many of you have that fear that if you do make a mistake like that, if you do wreck the car, that when you go home to your partner, it's going to be What did you do? Why wasn't you paying attention? Look what you've done. Blah, 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 blah. Woo. Without that, it's freedom.
It is.
It really is freedom. It's just free.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I think the communication actually helped us really do was create a new belief system. And for me, my belief system is in her, and her belief system is in me. We don't separate it and put it outside and search and look for other answers in the universe to tell us anything, because we can feel the connection and truth. And we can communicate in such a way based on that. That's where our words of love come from. That's where our truth comes from. That's where our union resides within. It resides within that belief system.
It's all about making your relationship or your union or your connection your spiritual practice, and that's what we do. And I think we'll do a whole other video on that.
Yeah.
I think we will.
It's called a sadhana, but it is a wonderful way to live each day.
We're making a video. We're busy. Thank you. Come over here and lay down.
Really, dog?
Thank you.
Really? Did you just burp in my face?
No. So, what we want to focus on in this video is the communication. And if you have that spiritual practice, if your relationship is your spiritual practice, that communication is so open and so honest, there's just no fear.
No. And you know,
without judgment. Communication without judgment.
Let's talk about fear and communication, which is one of the most damaging parts to any kind of form of communication. It's very violent in its nature. Fear will actually create a thought process that says that you can't say this or can't say that. And the fear is based off of a judgment.
I'll tell him I wrecked the car, but I won't tell him I ran the red light.
Pretty much.
Right. He won't mind that I wrecked the car because that's an accident and sometimes that happens. But I won't tell him it's my fault.
Right. Makes sense to me. But then when you find out the truth and you go, well, why didn't you tell me the truth? Aren't I worthy of the truth is what you'll say, which is a judgment. Again,
Yeah.
Everything goes back to that. It's, and it's really, I can't even tell you how free it helps you become by no longer judging yourself for the thinking that you do, for the ways that you think, and for the way that you punish the entire universe or the world, and even the words that correspond with it, because those words are energy all in themselves. Go ahead.
I know that there's, so many different scenarios that you're playing through your minds right now. Well, what if there's adultery involved? Well, I'm going to say this. If you have open and honest communication in the first place, and it comes down to I'm needing more attention from you or I'm needing more affection from you, then the adultery won't happen in the first place. So if you're completely open and honest about everything, I mean everything in your lives, completely, it eliminates all those scenarios because there's no reason for them. Because you discuss them, you talk them out, you work them out, you're in complete and open communication about them, and it doesn't happen. And if it does, right, then that's a whole other video.
Well, it happens. If it doesn't happen, and as you're saying these things, and the other person is not on the receiving end, embracing it, it's because they're a judgment. The judgment comes from, oh, I'm doing something wrong. I didn't do this or I didn't do that. I'm not doing enough of this. I'm not doing enough of that. And then you start going into a repetitive mind pattern, repeating itself, of not communicating the correct information, which is wow, I really let you down. I can't go back and fix it. Here's what I want to fix now. Now is the only time you ever have. You can't substitute it with anything. You can't control it over anything else, because it's always now. Even when you're watching this video, it's now. Right? So, if you can't go back and rewind and replay something over again, don't waste your time. Be now. And communication requires being now. So when you communicate and you're not doing it from a non-judgmental way, use the now. Don't use what was. If you have to revert back to a later time or a time before, talk about what you felt. Don't talk about what the other person did that made you feel that way. Made you feel that way is a judgment.
If you've seen our videos, then you know that if we would have practiced this, we wouldn't have been through all of the things that we had. However, being in a harmonious union now, it's what we practice. And in our everyday lives, it's what we practice. Even down to, does this dress make me look fat? Right? Might want to change. Right. Even down to every little detail of honesty, and it doesn't cause conflict, and it doesn't, it actually opens more doors for more communication.
Yeah. We actually even communicate our self-esteem issues to one another. The self-esteem that comes in and tells us we don't look good enough, we're not thin enough, we're not muscular enough, we're not much to look at. We really go into it, and we don't keep it hidden from one another. And here's the key part, is we don't judge each other or attack each other for feeling that way. It's an acceptance. It creates space for you to do the things that you need to do to either change, embrace, or accept. And if you don't have that space, if you're not creating that space in the way that you communicate, it's judgment.
It really does go hand in hand in everything.
Judgment sucks, dude.
It really does
It
go
really
hand
does.
in hand.
You don't need it.
And
The person ran from me. They couldn't accept the fact that I was this way. Guess what? If you get rid of judgment, you don't try to change the other person. You don't try to make the other person something they're not. You accept them for who they are, creating space for them to change on their own.
accept them for their flaws, for their addictions, for their hurts, for their pains, for their mistakes, for everything.
Why would we tell you to do something that crazy and insane and make no sense at all? Because the reason that way is because everybody else has judged them and they've been judging themselves this entire time. So if you don't create space and stand there next to them, they're not going to realize they can change. They're going to think they have to stay in the same pattern. They're going to make the same mistakes. They're going to repeat the same cycle of behavior based on the fact that nobody was standing there with them. We changed. And it wasn't because it was during a time when there was no judgment. Even with all the pain that we put each other through, somehow or another, the connection pointed to judgment. Said, don't worry, create the space. This space will create change, and it did. Without even thinking about it. When you want to change your behaviors, those are the things that change. If you change the behavior of judgment, you don't judge. Thus creating space for somebody else to grow, to be, to accept, to create their own new system of belief.
You don't think we get emails? We get emails all the time. Especially when in the first part, Sherry, how could you even think about continuing a relationship with him after all the womanizing he was doing. He gets him too, I'm sure. How could you even be with, even in comments, how could you even be with her after all that?
Don't have judgment.
This is why.
So what did we learn from the great part of communication? We removed judgment. Then we were able to say what we needed to. If you find that you're stuck in something that's dead end, and that something's not coming back to you, something's not giving you what your heart needs, remove the judgment and say it.
Don't worry about what you're going to hear.
Nope.
Don't worry about the backlash that you think you're going to get.
Unless you judge. If you judge, don't worry, it'll come back.
Yep.
And if it don't come back, you're going to do it to yourself because you expect it. You set the expectations up for when you have to send something out. Here's an example. I would say, you hurt me. You ran from me. You didn't want to talk to me. You didn't want to listen to me. You didn't care for me like I cared for you. Out of all of those, where do you think the judgment lies?
I don't love me. I don't care for me.
Back then, you would have chose one word and said, oh, I heard you just say you.
Yeah.
So if I'm saying you, pointing out, I'm talking about me. How else can I learn how to judge if I can't do that? If we can point at other people, point our finger and go, they did this, they did that, they said this, they said that. If I'm pointing out there, judging that, how much love am I really showing? Is that love? Or is that addiction or addictive clinging or codependency on something else that makes me feel better about me?
And I just know that there's so many of you out there going, geez, well, that's just not possible with us. That's just not possible with me. We just can't. It's just not possible. We're here, sitting right here, telling you that it is possible. It is possible. We live it every single day. Well, can we finish? Thank you. We live it every day. We are honest with each other about everything, every day. Everything. Oh, I spent $12 at the tanning bed a little bit ago. Well. No, but it's things like that it's things like that in so many relationships, so many connections, so many marriages that are happening. And I used to do it too. You go shopping, you come home with a bunch of things, and you throw it in the closet so your partner won't see it, and bring it out a little bit at a time. Because he don't watch the finances, he don't know it's done, or she don't watch the finances. So it happens all the time. All the time. Hiding money, spending money, going places you shouldn't go, hanging out with people that you shouldn't necessarily be hanging out with. So many different things that we hide from our partners because we can't tell them the truth.
And is hiding lying?
Absolutely.
Who told people that hiding was...
Absolutely.
When you hide what you think or feel inside, and then you vocalize and what you're hiding and hiding about on the inside. If you vocalize and you don't tell where you're hiding or what you're secretly in there thinking, aren't you creating a lie?
Absolutely.
It's hard to look at it that way because some people are shaking their head going, that's not a lie. That's just not telling them all the information.
It's still
But don't tell them because
a lie. We're not going to tell them, but it's a lie.
Okay.
It just is a freeing, walking out of prison feeling.
And she understands what the hell that means.
A little bit. A little bit. If you would have been there on time, it would have been a better day. But,
Gee, there wasn't judgment in that. Yeah, it's hard to escape it. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just means that we're trying to point you to something else. I love you.
you eventually showed up.
Yes, and you were happy to see me.
I was very
And there
happy
was
to
no
see-
judgment when you
there
guys got in the car.
was no judgment. Absolutely not. But it's a very freeing feeling, knowing that I can tell Lee anything. Anything. He knows everything about me and he knows everything to come.
Yep. And what I love about it is you said, you know everything about me. You didn't say you know my entire story, which created a persona which defined me. Because it never happened. That's what we've been stuck with. We live our story. Here's what happened to me, and this is because this happened to me, and then this person did this to me, and then that person did this to me, and now I can't trust anybody. I can't trust anybody because those things happened to me. And those things happened to me. The words are being utilized to put out into the universe to create the same energy to come back to you because you keep living the same story. It's that simple. The power of your words.
Very much so. And we see it all day on social media, and my life is horrible, and my partner's cheating, and I'm just so depressed, and my life sucks. Get off your ass. Get real with yourself. Take care of yourself. Learn to love yourself. Because nobody can love you if you don't love yourself. You can't expect anything from anybody else that you don't give yourself. Don't expect your partner to be honest with you if you can't be honest with them.
Or yourself.
Or yourself.
If you're not honest with yourself, if you're not standing in your truth in yourself.
Always. Don't expect it.
No.
Don't expect it. If you're hiding the things that you're buying at the store, don't expect him to not do the same thing. Or her.
Right. The truth about our journey is that it was something we had to endure. It was something that we were supposed to endure. And we're glad it did. One way or another, we realized that what it needed to bring out was the fact that we're in union, in love, deep love, not hiding, not lying, standing in the truth, and showing it to you here together, repeatedly, together. We do everything together. We share every thought together. We share every honorable and painful and beautiful moment together. Could you trust that with the person that you say you love? We love you guys.
We do.
And we appreciate you listening. And I'm sure that parts of this seemed that it was really important as it pertains to how judgment impacts everything. So if you are trying to find something to resonate with. Resonate with what doesn't judge. Anything to add? Anything? What do you think?
Stay true to yourself. Stay honest. Stand in your truth.
We did. And we only stayed in here to do it. We didn't look out there.
Yeah,
We love you guys.
we do. Thanks for watching. If any show suggestions, put them on the Facebook group. Put them under the video. We'll get to them.
Yes. And thank you, Ashley. We will be
We did. I
doing
wanted
2
to
other
give her a
videos that
shout
you
out.
did. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, Ash. Keep it going, girl. Keep doing your thing.
she's amazing.
Yes, she is. We appreciate you.
All of you guys
All of
are
you.
amazing. Thanks for watching.
Yes. Talk to you soon.
Bye.